Advanced Wars is a game full of secrets that the developers never bothered to tell you about. I have no idea why they decided to add so much cryptic stuff in this game, but I can only think that they had a very specific vision for how they wanted it to play, and thus they felt like these mechanics were necessary, but maybe too complicated to explain to the player directly. So without further ado, here are 10 secret tips that Advanced Wars do not tell you about. Secret tip number 1. The damage your units deal varies slightly. The damage values displayed in Advanced Wars do not tell the whole story. Your damage is actually a little random. To the Reboot Camp's credit, Nell actually briefly mentions the luck mechanic in dialogue early on, but she doesn't explain exactly how it works. Whenever you attack, your units will deal 0 to 9% extra damage in battle. This mechanic is called luck, and every CO in the game has it. Some COs like Nell, Flak, and Sonja operate a bit differently, having unique luck values. But that's a much more complicated topic that I won't be going into here. I made an entire video on the luck mechanic if you want a more specialized deep dive, link in the top right corner of your screen. For this video, all you need to know is that your damage will fluctuate a bit in combat. This doesn't matter a whole lot in most engagements, but it does mean that sometimes it's a coin flip whether you shoot down a transport copter with a battlecopter or a lander with a submarine, as they deal 95% damage, meaning you have to rely on the 0 to 9% extra luck damage to destroy it in a single round. Secret tip number 2. Units gets less defense from terrain stars when they are damaged. Terrain stars seem like a simple mechanic on the surface. 3 stars from a city translates to 30% less damage taken. However, what the game fails to inform you about is a secret mechanic that lowers terrain stars proportional to how much HP a unit has left. Let's say you have some tanks with 5 HP remaining. If they were on full health, they would get 30% extra defense from standing on top of a property. However, since their HP is reduced by 50%, they also get 50% less defense from the terrain stars, meaning that instead of 3, they now get 1.5 stars. So only a 15% defense bonus instead of the 30% they would normally have had at full health. This is most likely a mechanic the developers added to the game to make it easier to dislodge units fortified on top of cities and other defensive terrain. Note that this only applies to terrain stars. Defense bonuses from CO powers like Combai's Samurai Spirit will not get reduced when units are damaged, but Lash's Prime Tactics will, since it doubles terrain stars, not defense. Secret tip number 3. Your CO powers gets more expensive each time they are used. There is a diminishing returns mechanic in the game that increases the cost of your CO powers by 20% each time you activate them, stacking up to 9 times for a total increase of 280% extra costs. But for some reason, after the 10th time and every time thereafter, the cost drops down to 200% and stays there for the rest of the match. I made a whole video covering the intricate mechanics of CO powers if you want to check it out, link in the top right corner of the screen. Secret tip number 4. Your normal power costs more than advertised. If you want to pop 2 normal powers in a row, you will actually have to pay a little bit extra for it. Let's say you want to fire off 2 consecutive gold rushes as Colin. As you can see here, Colin's normal power has a cost of 2 stars, meaning he should technically be able to activate it 3 times in a row on a full power bar. But when used, we can see that Gold Rush drains 3 stars when used instead of 2. This is called the normal power penalty, and every CO has to pay extra if they want to use 2 normal powers in a row. This is most likely a failsafe mechanic put in place to prevent exactly this kind of play, as doing that can be quite game-breaking. Secret tip number 5. You generate much more CO power from losing your units than you do destroying others. There is a loser's advantage in Advanced Wars that grants more CO power to whichever side is having more units destroyed. In the style of Advanced Wars 1, you generate power charge 4 times faster from losing units compared to destroying them. And in the style of Advanced Wars 2, this has been lessened slightly to only 2 times more power charge for losing units. But in both styles, you still generate CO power considerably faster when you lose units. I can only imagine that this is a secret mechanic created by the developers to give a bit of a handicap to the losing player, giving them more CO power charge so that they have a chance to make a comeback. Secret tip number 6. Sturm's Meteor Strike and how it works. In the older games, Sturm's Meteor was a bit random and could act in 3 different ways, striking either units' HP, their total value, or targeting indirects. In the Reboot Camp, the Meteor seems to just default to striking the most valuable clump of units, meaning it's far more predictable and easier to bait. It can do friendly fire damage, and if it does, it will just deduct the cost of Sturm's own units from the total price. Otherwise, the Meteor works like it always has, except that it has a much cooler graphic this time. Secret tip number 7. How Sonja's counterbreak actually works. Counterbreak has a very confusing description in Sonja's dossier. It can be a bit tough to wrap your head around, but what it actually means is that her units will get to strike first when they are attacked. This is pretty huge in certain engagements, like an anti-air attacking a bomber, for example. Normally, the anti-air would wipe out the bomber, but in this case, the bomber will utterly destroy the anti-air, especially if it is out in the open. However, Counterbreak also has a very detrimental side effect, as Sonja does not get the 50% extra boost from her counterattack damage because the attacks are not actually treated as counterattacks. This can sometimes reduce the amount of damage Sonja deals during Counterbreak. Secret tip number 8. Certain CO dossiers are slightly inaccurate. This is only the case if you play in the style of Advanced Wars 1, but some CO dossiers, like that of Max and Sammy, actually displays the wrong boosts for their powers. For Max, his max force is listed as a 35% damage increase, but in actuality he gets 37% more damage. This is shown in one of the videos Kartal recently made, where he demonstrates that Max gets his original Advanced Wars 1 boosts, despite what the game tells you. What's going on here is that the developers of Way Forward didn't bother to change the incredibly weird damage calculations of the first game, but rather chose to simplify the dossier itself, rounding down to the nearest 5, rather than just giving us the exact values. This is also the case for Sami, who is advertised to get a 25% boost to her defense on her infantry when she actually gets 28%. This is a minor nitpick and not something that greatly impacts the game, but it is worth noting that several Advanced Wars 1 COs, who either get a damage or defense boost from their powers, like Come-By, Eagle, or Grit, have slightly inaccurate values listed in their dossiers. Secret tip number 9. Adder's CO power does not charge faster. Adder's CO dossier states that he charges up his power meter faster than other COs, but this isn't true. Adder only gets his powers quickly because he has a relatively short power meter, but he doesn't gain charge any faster than other COs. Sideslip is no quicker to charge up than Colin's Gold Rush or Sensei's Copter Command, and Sidewinder comes in no faster than Sonja's Counterbreak. Adder just has a very short power bar, but it is matched by a few other COs in the game. Secret tip number 10. The labs have been altered slightly in the reboot camp. This one is a bit obscure, but labs in the reboot camp have had their terrain stars removed and now offer 0 protection to units on top of them. This is probably a developer oversight, as they used to have 3 terrain stars in the original games. Since you can now unlock labs in the map editor, it is now possible to offer a slightly different kind of property that still gives you income, but does not repair your units or give them any kind of protection. And on a completely unrelated note, you can now also include black cannons, mini cannons, laser cannons, and even the Death Ray and the Volcano in your custom maps, which is really cool, though you have to unlock them from Hachi's shop. Anyway, those are the 10 secret tips that the reboot camp does not tell you about. Were some of these new to you? I'd love to know in the comment section below. And also feel free to include some tips I may have missed. If there's a lot of them, I may even do a follow-up video. I have a really cool playlist with tons of other Advanced Wars videos, so you can check that out if you're hungry for more content. Until then, my name is Mengs, leave a like and a comment, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye!